right, let's go ahead and get started. We will be recording this session today for anyone who is unable to make it. We have quite a few people signed up from around the world with different time zones, and we really appreciate your time and coming today to the session. So just wanted to say welcome from Barcelona in the Absolute Internship office. We're really excited to have you guys here for our second session in our webinar series, Remote 2020, that's focusing on remote internships. Today, our topic is about which students are looking for a remote internship and how to reach them. So this is a very important topic, and of course our speakers today are students themselves, so we're very excited to have them with us and to share about their experiences. The session will be about 30 minutes or so, and then we will have a question and answer time at the end, so we can have our audience ask any questions they would like, and we can have you guys unmute yourselves as well if you'd like to speak directly to the students, and hopefully have a great dialogue about international remote internships. So thank you again for taking time to be with us today. So just to give you a very brief introduction of our students, and we can have them give you a deeper introduction of themselves. We have Evan Guzman joining us today from the United States. We have Alejandro Albarracín from Colombia, and we have Martina Furano from Italy today. So we're very excited to have them, and we will let each one just introduce themselves, speak a little bit about what university they go to, what they're studying, and their experience with internships. So Evan, if you'd like to start off, you can introduce yourself, and I'll give you the floor.
Yeah, cool, thank you. Yeah, so hi, my name is Evan Guzman. I went to Barcelona last summer, so 2019. Currently, I go to Fairleigh Dickinson University in TNEC, where I'm majoring in biology. And I interned with like a focus on entrepreneurship because like there wasn't anything really like science related. And to be honest, I was kind of sick and tired of like biology and learning everything about science. So I decided to go a different route and learn about entrepreneurship. So yeah, I worked with a small startup company, and it was just really cool because they just taught me a lot about, you know, the process of building up a small business and just all the inner workings of it. And it was just really cool because it was a side of like learning that I never really experienced before, because my entire career was pretty much like predominated by science. So it was cool to have a change in perspective. So is that, yeah, that's it.
Yeah, and can you tell us, Evan, about your experience with any remote work in your internship?
Oh yeah, so I got lucky because usually what would happen is 5 days in the week we would have to go to the office, but I convinced my boss, because we were pretty cool, like he was like a young guy, so I convinced my boss to let me do like 3 days out of the office and 2 days in the office, because I made up like a little sob story. I was like, yeah, you know, it's my first time in Spain, so I'm just trying to experience it. And he was like, yeah, whatever, all right, do what you want. So yeah, we were able to make it remote and office, which is pretty cool because, you know, I got the office experience while at the same time being able to like have a remote and do it on my own schedule. And I got my work done, which is why, you know, he trusted me to do that. So it was pretty cool.
Thank you, Evan. Alejandro, would you like to introduce yourself, explain a little bit where you're studying, what your major is, what your experience is with internships?
Sure. Okay, my name is Alejandro Albarracín, Bogotá, Colombia. I'm currently majoring in business administration in one of those recognized business schools here in Colombia. A year ago, I had the opportunity to go to Barcelona, Spain. It's like my favorite city in the entire world. I interned in a startup dedicated to the scooter rental in the metropolitan area of Catalonia. I was focusing in the business development area, and I really enjoyed it. I met a lot of people. My coworkers were awesome. My boss was also a young guy. So we hung out a lot. I remember we spoke a lot about businesses, and I loved it. A remote internship. I'm currently working in one of the most important companies in Colombia. It's an e-delivery application. So, well, for taking advantage of the quarantine time here in my country, I applied for a summer internship, and it has been very fulfilling, I think. I have enjoyed a lot. I have learned a lot, and I really love like the startup environment. And yeah, that's it.
Thank you. Great. So you did an in-person internship and then you went to a remote internship afterwards. That's great.
Yeah, I was in the Netherlands, and I came back. I was doing my exchange semester. I came back here because of the coronavirus outbreak, and for taking advantage of the time, I am doing a remote internship.
Great, great, thank you. And last we have Martina, Martina Furano from Italy. If you could just explain a little bit about where you're studying, what your major is, and your experience with an internship. I know that was quite unique as well.
Yeah. Okay, hello everybody. My name is Martina. I'm currently studying languages, foreign languages applied to business in particular in Milan. So I'm based here and I'm attending the third year of my bachelor's degree in my university in Milan, that is Università Cattolica del Sacro Cuore. Well, I applied for an in-person internship, and yeah, it was a unique experience because I went there, and then because of the coronavirus outbreak, I had to take advantage in some way of the situation that was pretty difficult, and my experience turned out to be completely different because my in-person internship became a totally remote internship, and I began working remote while I was there, and then I continued in Italy. So I came home, and then I continued my internship remotely. Well, there are a lot of advantages in my opinion, but we'll discuss it more in detail later. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Martina, and can you speak a little bit about what your internship was that you were doing remotely?
Yeah. While studying here, my university, I liked business communication. So I used to work in this field, and then, well, my duties were about social media as business communication. So communication to customers in general through social media, as newsletter, this sort of things. So communication to external, yeah, to external people.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. So in our first part today, we will be talking about your relationship with your supervisor. Okay, so to hear a little bit about what it was like, how were they evaluating your work or progress, especially being in a remote setting. So, you know, you weren't in the office every day, you know, having that face-to-face interaction that you would in a traditional in-person internship. So I'd like to know what your relationship was like and how you were being evaluated for your progress. So Alejandro, if you would like to start off, you can speak about your remote internship and how that was done.
Sure. Okay. So as I said, actually nowadays I'm doing a remote internship. My relationship with my supervisor is very, very close. She's very nice with me, and they evaluate my progress. We have like these weekly meetings where we see how I am doing with the things I have to do with the projects I'm working in. And so every week, every Monday, we like establish the goals of the week, and every Sunday we see how I did in my work. So yeah, that's the way they evaluate me. And as I said, the relationship is very close. It's like I think it is very important like while doing a remote internship, to have a very close relationship, because if not, you will be very lost in the internship, in the work you're doing. So yeah, it is very close, and I really like it.
And how would you guys communicate? What sort of platforms would you speak on, or what was your normal communication channel?
Normally we use WhatsApp because it's really fast. But if it is like a urgent situation, I will give her a call, and we will like uh, like search for a solution in a very fast way.
Okay, thank you. Evan, can you talk about what your relationship was like with your supervisor? You mentioned it a little bit before, but how are they evaluating your work that you weren't there in the office, 5 days a week?
Yeah, so pretty much their means of evaluation was just every morning where I wasn't in the office, they'd just be like, all right, here's some work, just get it done. Like we don't care like when you get it done, how you get it done, just get it done. Which was like pretty cool because it was very laid back. And that's one thing that I noticed about the dynamic of like work life in Spain was that compared to the US, here in like I'm in Jersey, so like being next to New York, everyone's like just go, 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 which is like so tiring. But I remember the coolest interaction I had with my boss was I was actually at a club, and then I was just walking randomly, and I hear my name, and I turn around, and like my boss was right there, and he already bought me a shot. And so that was like the coolest experience, because I don't think that would happen in the US. And like the fact that me and my boss were so close, it was just so cool. It was like, I don't know, it was just really cool.
Okay, yeah, no, and definitely depending on the company that you work for, you make friendships and have relationships that way and outside of the office, right? That you might go to happy hour or get involved with, colleagues that way outside of the office and really get to know them, right? And not just a professional sense. And I know in Spain, many people call their coworkers family, because you spend so much time together, right? So you got to experience some of the cultural differences maybe here as well in Spain. So Martina, can you talk a little bit about the relationship with your supervisor and how they were evaluating your work, given that it was a remote situation?
Sabrina, as you just told, yeah, we were a family, and my supervisor called us as, referred us as a family. So it is really, really true what you're saying. We were very close to, and I think I was very, lucky to be in this team, because they were all very willing to help me, to just make me feel part of the team, and I did definitely. Well, just an example, my supervisor asked me to do a cooking lesson. So this is a very clear example that makes you understand how we were really a sort of family. But of course, we were also very professional while working. And to do things faster, first of all, well, we initially used WhatsApp, but then my supervisor decided to use another platform just for professional communication, and it is Slack. I don't know if you know it. It is divided into threads, so channels, and each channel corresponds to a specific topic. So in my case, I was working in the channel called social medias and newsletters, okay, this sort of thing. Yeah, my supervisor was able to separate what was more funny, what was more about team building, for example, cooking lessons, and what was more about, okay, we have to do our work, we have to collaborate, we have to make advantage of this situation in some way. So yeah, we use Slack, and I think that through this platform, as we were all able to enter and to read what we were writing in the channels, he checked if I was doing well, and if my colleagues needed something that I was supposed to give her, to provide to her. So this is the way we were working.
Okay, great. And I know from our host companies, you know, when we speak about remote work, and you might ask them like, oh, how do you know if a student is having a problem or they're having too many challenges in their internship? Usually they say, well, they're late on their deadlines, or I'm not getting the work done when it's supposed to be. Did you guys encounter any sort of challenges like that? And did you reach out for help from your supervisor, or was your supervisor, you know, reaching out to you if they saw that things weren't moving as fast as they should have? What was your experience with this, if anyone wants to answer?
Yeah, I'll leave the floor, then I can add something more.
I can contribute to that. So the question is, like, when issues arise, what would like happen in terms of communication between the higher ups and you?
Right. And were you the one reaching out, or were they reaching out, or did you have both scenarios? Or yeah, tell us a little bit about your experience.
Yeah, it was a little bit of both. Like if there was an instance where I didn't understand something, I could easily just call him up, because he gave me his number, so I had him on WhatsApp. So it was pretty like fluid conversation. Like he would just text me throughout the day to make sure, like if I needed anything, just to reach out to him. So it was very easy to talk to him. It was very easy to get my work done. So there wasn't really a problem in terms of communication with that.
Yeah, I can. Something happened to me like that. Like my first days when I entered to the company, like my boss told me something your portfolio is like the accounts that are like decreasing the most in the entire company. I was like, what should I do? So she called me, and we went throughout all of the problem together, and yeah, throughout a call. So it was in a very close relation.
Well, I had the opportunity to speak with them, not only with my supervisor, but with my colleagues as well. So I really had the opportunity to to speak with them, to understand more what I was supposed to, how I was supposed to contribute to the company. Communication was very, very active. So in relation to time, I can say that time management is a soft skill that is very important for remote internship. And this is also my personal problem. Yeah, I have to improve my time management skills. But I think that constant communication with them was the tool that allowed me to keep myself active, proactive. So yeah, communication in relation to time, I think it was the key in my case.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Then another question from your guys' perspective, what are some advantages and disadvantages to doing a remote internship? So Alejandro, you did both. You did an in-person and a remote internship. Martina, yours was supposed to be in person and became remote. And then Evan, you kind of had a hybrid of both. So I was curious of what your advantages and disadvantages were. Evan, would you like to go first on your thoughts of having remote and also in person?
Yeah, so I would say an advantage to having the possibility to do remote is definitely that like you're on your own time. So like you could wake up at I woke up at like 2 p.m. consistently and they didn't really care. So I woke up on my own time. I had coffee. I was sitting. I was in my bed. So like there was no commute because I had like a 30-minute walk to work every day, which although it was nice, it was tiring too. But yeah, definitely the fact that I was on my own time, there was no commute, that was pretty great. And I would just say like I'm able to focus personally when there's like no people around because I get distracted very easily. So when I'm in my own space and when it's just me, I'm able to like really focus on the work. I mean, yeah, I still get distracted every now and then, but it's a lot less to the extent of like in an office. But that's also a disadvantage though, because in a weird way, I do work well with people around me. So that's I would say is a disadvantage to working remotely. Is just you don't have the atmosphere of like an office and like there's not that social dynamic that I think I like feed off of to some extent. So yeah.
Thank you, Evan. Yeah, you seem like a very social person. So I'm sure you do feed off of that energy in the office. So, and I mean, that's a good point. Like, and especially if you're doing a remote internship for a company on the other side of the world that some students might be doing, and they say, hey, I really work well after 2 p.m., or 11 a.m. in the morning, working with the company in another time zone allows you to do that. And you might be in the morning for them. And so that could combine, if you have other types of schedules as well. So that could work, yeah, well with you.
This is what I was about to say, because you can match studies and internship. I don't know, for example, if Absolute Internship gives the possibility to work with flexible timetables, but yeah, in this case, you can match studies and internship at the same time. It could be pretty useful for students to save time, Well, I would like to add something to what Evan was saying about his typical working day. My working day was completely different because I woke up, I dressed up like if I had to go to work, but actually I was in quarantine. I couldn't even go out from my door. But it was in this way, yeah, I felt in the part of what I was doing. I feel like I don't know. I was I used to prepare myself as I had to go out, just to build a schedule, a typical working day, because yeah, it was actually my very first experience, so I needed to feel organized.
Yeah, actually, I was going to say something like that. For me, one advantage is that like you are able to work and you're able to study. You're able to focus like an hour per day to a personal project you have. So that's like the main advantage. You can spend time with your family. You can like build your own schedule. But the main disadvantage is that you are not like living the entire experience. So you're not going to the office. You're not interacting with your coworkers. You're not like even having a meeting that you don't want to go really, but you have to. So because that's very important for an intern. So the main disadvantage is that you are not like really being part of the entire experience, rather than well being in your house studying and doing your work every day.
You don't have full immersion into the culture, you mean?
Exactly.
Okay.
Right, not
Yeah.
in the same, yeah, not in the same way that you would if you were in person, going to the office, surrounded by colleagues, from that culture. So that was a question one of our audience members has asked me in the chat. How did you feel that you were able to get a cultural experience by working remotely, even though you didn't get the full experience like Alejandro was saying? And would you, recommend that to other students, if they're not familiar with the culture? So I don't know if you could speak a little bit about that, like the culture that you experienced.
Okay, well, in my case, as soon as I entered the company, I had like this entire onboarding process where I was like told which were the values of the company, which was the main culture. And actually, when I started working, I really noticed that everything that they told me in the onboarding process was true. Because I mean, one of the values was like being very proactive, and everyone was proposing ideas every day. So I really liked it. So for me, it's very important to establish those values, and to like be clear with the culture the company has since the first day.
I was just wondering if I could add to that. Yeah. Even though like mine was a mix, like I can't say my experience was fully remote. I would definitely say that you do miss out to some extent, at least from my perspective, if you aren't in the office, if you aren't necessarily present. So I would say if someone is looking for that cultural immersion, then an in-person in it, like being there is definitely the top, should definitely be like the top priority, because when you're there, you really get to experience like the food, the people, like just the whole gambit of it. And I would say remotely, even though you do get to communicate with people like that are like from that area, it's definitely not the same, because there's so much more to culture than just work life. And I think that that's like should be considered when looking at an internship remotely.
Okay, in my case, I didn't have culture shock because I went to Spain, to Barcelona, and I also studied Spanish. So I went to Spain so many times. I had experience about interacting with Spanish people, so it wasn't a culture shock. But I would say that it is the sort of thing that it is easier to feel and to live rather than explaining through words. What made culture experience real was basically the fact that communication is real. So you're really communicating with a person from the other side of the globe, for example. Yeah, this is basically what makes you understand that you have to adapt the way you speak, the way you interact with the team in general, in relation to the culture they come from. This is what basically makes it real, the communication, because even if you're doing that virtually, you're really talking with somebody else. So this is the way I felt I was having a culture experience.
Thank you. Yeah, and you guys bring up good points as well. And we hear this from students, and that was one of our inspirations for this webinar and on this topic, is that, a remote internship is not for everyone. And I've had many students tell me, all the reasons why they don't want to do a remote internship, because they want to taste the food. They want to, be in person with the people. They want to, take part in the cultural activities. And so they definitely don't want to do a remote internship. So I don't think it's, one size fits all, definitely experience. So we really appreciate you guys today talking about, why you did remote internship. So we're going to move on to our next part here, where we're talking about kind of students in general. So from your personal perspective, and now to just kind of students in general, about who you think would be a good candidate for a remote internship, as we don't think, you know, everyone is the perfect candidate for remote internship, just like not all jobs are able to be done remotely. And who do you think would not be an ideal candidate and why? So feel free to answer this from your cultural perspective, you know, your geographical perspective as well, because that'll be interesting to hear too.
For me, I think an ideal candidate would be someone who is very structured, someone who likes like a kind of a routine, and someone that's able to set their own routine, because when you're working remotely, I think it is important that you're very disciplined, because if you're not, then your work's probably gonna, you know, fall through. Another, you know, characteristic that I think is important is, I think maybe if you don't like the social interaction that goes on in offices, I know that there are some, like, I know I definitely, there's some days where I'm just like, I can't deal with people right now. And there'd be like those days where I would not mind, you know, working remotely. So I would say if you feel like you would work better by yourself, if you're more focused by yourself, then that's definitely, it's definitely for you. A person that I would say isn't necessarily like a fit for remote internship would be someone that that doesn't really like structure, someone that needs to be guided, someone that needs like someone to tell you what to do all the time, like someone that needs to be micromanaged, because that can't really happen when you're working remotely. Like sometimes you just need someone barking at you to get the job done, you know. Like so I guess that's you know, my 2 cents.
Thank you. Yeah, Martina or Alejandro, do you want to go? Martina? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Good candidate. A good candidate has to be independent. Regarding soft skills, should have communication skills and interpersonal skills, in my opinion. Because I was saying before, you're you are really establishing a relationship with people you're working with, and as you can't rely on face-to-face interaction, you have to be able to establish a relationship remotely. It is possible, but it is pretty much more challenging, in my opinion. So this is a soft skill you're required to have, and a hard skill, in my opinion, is managing languages. Managing languages, also writing in another language. You're going to use more writings. Yeah, I think there is writing more rather than oral communication, but both. I would say both. And from my point of view as Italian student, I would say that as Italian student, study more years in relation to European or even more relation to students from US, we sometimes feel like at disadvantage, because we feel like in a rush, and we feel like we have to grab experience and knowledge from everywhere. Also because since we study more years, we finish our studies kind of at 25, and when we enter in the world of in the working world, employers want us to have experience, but we're just finished our studies. So this is what I mean when saying that we feel like at disadvantage, because I personally feel the need to literally build myself with experiences and opportunities that, for example, university, but there are many more sources provide to me and offer to me. So a good candidate would be, in this case, a person that is very motivated to grow personally, both personally and professionally, and I would say, to stand out from peers.
Yeah, I think that the Colombian case is very similar to the Italian case. Here in Colombia, every student like waits until like their last college year to have like their internship, like the 1 year long internship. So I think a good candidate will be that student that will want to stand out from the others, that want to be like different from the regular Colombian or regular Latin American student. And I think this student should be like a multitasking student, because I think they will be they will need to work in the same at the same time they will need to study. So yeah, I think also that maybe a good student, a good candidate for a remote internship are those that, well, in Latin America there is very important, or is very famous, like of having like groups in their universities. So we have like the investment group, or like the reading group, or something like that. So I think that is very important to focus on those students who are like part of different groups that are very proactive. So that led me to the next question, which is not a good candidate. I think a good candidate is the student that is not proactive. So if normally you have to be very proactive in a normal internship, you have to propose ideas and that kind of stuff. If you are not a proactive student and a proactive worker in a remote internship, I think you will be not like doing anything in your internship. You will be only like getting orders from your bosses and that kind of stuff, but you are not really learning something. Yeah, you're not really like taking advantage of the internship.
I totally agree with you.
That's good. Yeah. And Alejandro, I remember you said when we were speaking earlier about students that did well or thrived during the COVID-19 situation, semester, they would be excellent candidates for remote internships. I remember when you said that, and that stuck with me. So people that really thrived in this unknown situation would be great in remote internships.
Exactly, because if you think about it, a candidate that is like in quarantine, and he or she prefers to start applying to remote internship rather than doing something else that it's not that like good for their future. For the future, it's a better candidate, you know, because that shows he's going to be such more proactive in the work they're gonna be working in.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. And who do you think would be interested in doing a remote internship? So we talked about kind of the characteristics of people you think are successful for remote internships, but who do you think would be interested in doing one? Because as I mentioned before, not everyone is interested in doing it. And I've had students give me many reasons of why they don't want to do one. So can you tell me what you think about this?
Yeah, for example, I would like, if you want to work for a company that is headquartered in Asia or United States, this is just an example, and you don't have financial possibilities. This is a very easy example, because the truth is that many students would like to grow to do this kind of experience, but don't have the possibilities actually. So a remote internship costs less because of the expenses that you would have while living there, and so this would be a good opportunity, a good possibility. And another example, besides financial problems, is in my case, I would like to, for example, work for a company from Thailand, from China. But this is a country I would never, not never, but in general, I wouldn't go to because of the language, because I would feel really out of the world while being there, and not being able to speak, to interact with people. I don't even know a single word in Chinese, so language would probably stop me. A remote internship could be a possibility to work, to interact with Chinese people without going there personally.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. So if you're not ready to dive fully into the experience and you want to test it first, it would be doing a remote internship. And if you don't feel prepared to physically move there yet, even for a short period of time, right? Because many students don't even study abroad during their college for whatever reason it might be. So this can give them that first taste of working internationally.
You can build a network, a first network, and
exactly. I was going to say that maybe someone will be interested in doing a remote internship if he or she likes is really into the networking aspect. So it is very easy nowadays with all the internet facilities, and even more doing a remote internship to boost your network. So that's maybe the most important aspect. And also that I think someone who is always willing to learn, and who is always willing to take advantage of their free time and spending it in a effective way, are those who would be interested in a remote internship. Because if you think about it, they will be always thinking in how or what to do for being efficient in their future.
Yeah, and to add to that, I would say two other good reasons as to why someone may want to do remote is if you have extenuating circumstances that prevent you from traveling. I remember us talking about if you have a family member that's sick that you can't necessarily leave, so you could stay, but you don't want to miss out on an opportunity. So boom, there's a remote internship. Another one is if you're fearful of the COVID situation. I know we are in a weird time right now, so everything's kind of up in the air, and if there is still that level of concern of traveling, then a remote internship again is a great way to supplement that. But also speaking to the previous question about the advantages or the characteristics of people who should and shouldn't do a remote internship, I would say it's okay if you feel you're not ready to do one. I know there's a lot of pressure out there for people to be oh, quarantine's a time where you gotta put in work, where you gotta be proactive, but in some cases it's harder. So if you feel you're not necessarily able to put forth that much of an effort to do a remote internship, that's okay, because the whole point is we're in quarantine. It's a weird time. So also at the same time, even though if you want to put your best foot forward, but you can't, don't feel bad about it. It's not, sometimes things just don't work out. So don't put too much pressure on yourself when it comes to that, I would say.
Yeah, thank you, Evan. That's a really good point to make as well, that we've all been, especially at the beginning, right, of quarantines, that you've been bombarded with these messages of make the most of your time, do everything that you possibly can. But we also need to acknowledge everyone's living circumstances, their financial situation. So taking all of that into consideration is important before embarking on a remote internship experience. So thank you. Next question, how would you guys promote, or if you want to say the word advertise, remote internship? So thinking of universities, maybe career offices, abroad offices, international offices, how would you suggest that they promote these types of opportunities, as it might not appeal to the same base of students that would normally sign up for an in-person program?
Okay, I start. Well, I think that you should explain students that a remote internship is not like the bad version of an in-person internship. They're really two completely words. They're completely different experiences, and students should be explained that in the future, skills that are required for a remote internship and the remote internship, the remote working itself will be increasingly required from companies, from the whole world. Companies are changing, are reorganizing because of this situation caused by coronavirus, and we in the future will be asked to have the skills to be able to establish relationship, professional relationship, and to be able to work remotely efficiently. Well, I know what I'm saying, what I'm talking about, because my mother works in human resources, and she is explaining that to me every single day, that they're trying to to manage the human resources to adapt to this new situation. And we students, future workers, we are future workers, we need to prepare. So remote internship is an opportunity to be already prepared for the future, for this new situation and development.
Yeah, actually yesterday I was talking to a friend's mom that she's like very famous here in my city in Bogota, because what she has done in the business area. And she told me that the companies are going to be very like interested in what the person that is applying to the job, what did he or she do while the outbreak, you know. So it is very important to promote like this thing in the while advertising a remote internship, you know. Thinking about in the future, like the enterprises are gonna be really interested in what you did while you were in quarantine. Did you like took advantage of the time or not? Or, you know, it is like outstanding that you will say like, yeah, while I was in quarantine, I did an internship in a Barcelona company, and it helped them to improve their catalog or something like that. And it will be very, very important for them to hear that, and it will be very outstanding. And in my opinion, you should like advertise or promote the internship throughout LinkedIn. I think LinkedIn is a very important tool nowadays, because you will be like directly speaking to those students who are like really into the business area and really interested in all the business things and all the business related topics.
That's a good point, Alejandro. So maybe not just on Instagram, or, you know, if you use Facebook or, you know, the university website, but also on LinkedIn as an important platform, right? To let students know about these opportunities. And that's probably more where they're looking for internships.
Exactly.
Yeah, Evan, what feedback do you have in terms of promoting or advertising a remote internship?
Yeah, so I would say, like, I can see it in my head. So pretty much if there's like a compare and contrast of like the commute of a non-remote versus a remote internship, because I remember my commute the first day was was an experience. I got lost in Spain. I didn't know where I was. I got on the wrong bus. There was a bunch of people that I didn't know, and like I was just so nervous the entire time. I don't speak Spanish fluently, so I had to bust out Google Translate. I remember just asking people like to look at my phone, just like to get directions. And so that was something that, you know, it's funny and I'm laughing at it now, but like that was stressful. So I think a cool thing, like a compare and contrast, would be like you see a student that's like hustling and bustling, getting on the wrong bus, tripping over their shoelaces and stuff like that, versus a kid that just wakes up from bed, takes a sip of coffee, gets his laptop in his pajamas and goes back to bed and starts working. Because the commute, I don't know, that just wasn't for me. So I think that would be a cool way to pitch it, because it's a convenience thing at that point.
Thank you. Yeah, Evan.
Even it is much more practical.
Yeah, Evan. Evan doesn't have the same routine as Martina in the mornings. And then Evan, I have a question. One of our audience members asked, and maybe this would be best directed at you. They were asking how language impacted your experience. So as you're not fluent in Spanish, you know, it's not your first language. And well, as Martina, if you want to answer too, were you able to use the language, or was the internship only in English? So did you use Spanish in your internships?
Yeah, both. I use both languages. And what was extremely challenging was getting from Spanish to English and from English to Spanish without passing through Italian. So it was really challenging. I had never tried before, but well, I managed in some way. Yeah, I had the opportunity to improve both and to train the switching from one language to another. That is very important in companies.
Thank you. What about you, Evan?
Yeah, so for me, again, the first day was kind of funny because like they had a work meeting the first day and all they spoke was Spanish. And so I was just sitting at the table, just looking at everybody like while they were talking. I didn't have a single clue what was going on. So I definitely had to learn quick. I had to adjust really quickly to Spanish. And it actually did help me because I am like half Mexican. So part of me feels obligated to know it. I'm like okay at it, but like that one meeting where they were just going like so quick, I didn't know what was going on. So over the course of my experience there, I definitely did pick up more Spanish, and I embarrassed myself a lot less. Like in the beginning, I embarrassed myself completely. Like at restaurants, at like bars, I would ask for totally wrong things. But I guess that's part of the experience. So I would say, you know, the language part, it was a bit difficult, but it was also part of the fun, you know.
Great, thank you. And then just we'll finish up here and ask any other questions people have. What would turn you off from a remote internship program?
I think the main thing, that the most important thing is that you are not feeling part of the company, or you're not feeling part of the group or of your actual team. So if you start working and you see that your coworkers are in a meeting, in a Zoom meeting or something like that, and you are actually not in the meeting, you feel apart, you know. So that's like the most important thing for me, like to really feel part of the company or part of the work I'm doing, rather than feeling that I'm being left apart.
I totally agree with you've just said. So basically, if you don't feel that what you're doing is useful for your colleagues, for the company in general. Sorry, it was my Siri. Yeah, I think it is important to feel useful, to feel that you're in some ways contributing actually to the company, Yeah, to feel part, this is what Alejandro has just said. This is the main thing, in my opinion, as well. Yeah, also because you're working from home, so this is the chain between you and the company, feeling part of the company and useful.
And I would say another one is time zones. Like if they're not willing to work with you, like based on your time zone, like as you said before, I'm not trying to work at like 3 a.m. So so long as they're able to work and if they're compatible and if they're understanding of, you know, the situation, and also if they're well equipped to have a remote internship, because I don't think it's definitely not the easiest thing. Like, sorry, my alarm's going off. It's definitely not the easiest thing transitioning to a remote internship. I think this COVID situation kind of proved that because a lot of companies had to turn remote. So I would just say it's definitely important for them to be like structured in terms of it. And if you feel like there's no structure for it, then maybe that's something that would turn you off as well.
Great. No, those are good insights of what students value and what they're looking for in a remote internship. You guys didn't mention, but what about time zones? Can that be a factor? Alejandro?
Yeah, for me, actually, as I just said, I started my remote internship while I was in the Netherlands with the time zone of Colombia. So I started my internship, my shift started at 3 p.m. and ended at 1 a.m. So it was very hard for me to like stick to the schedule. But I managed to do it, but it is a very important aspect.
Great. Yeah, thank you. And then just moving on to our last question here, and then I want to get to our attendees if they have more questions for you guys. What would be helpful for students or universities to know? Any sort of recommendation in terms of remote internships other than what you guys have already shared?
This is the most difficult question. What would be helpful? I think students and universities should know that it is possible, and what I was saying before, that is that we have to work on working remotely. I think I would leave the floor to Alejandro and Evan, because in this moment I have no ideas, but the main thing for me, I'm repeating, but yeah, it is highlighting that we have to work for the future, to be prepared, to act quickly.
Yeah, that's actually a good one. I would say universities definitely should know that remote internships, that they can be just as beneficial as actual in-person internships, so long as like the structure's in place and so long as, you know, there's certain, like so long as there is structure there. I also think it's important for universities to know that like not to throw it at our faces, kind of like as we mentioned before. There's a whole, oh, you got to be proactive during this quarantine, even though it is like a whole pandemic. So I would say they should like get the word out there, but they shouldn't be, you know, trying to like ram it down our throats and like stuffing our inboxes with there's a remote internship, there's a remote internship. Yeah, I would definitely say that they should know that they're possible, they're efficient, they work. But yeah.
Okay, I have like sort of idea. I think an important thing is like to show that a remote internship is not like the bad representation of a normal internship. It's like there are completely different paths. There are completely different like experiences, but both are good experiences. You know, it's not like the remote internship is like a bad representation of a in-person internship.
Thank you guys so much for that. Before we get to the questions here and open it up, I wanted to read one of the feedbacks we got in the chat, so then anyone who's watching the recording can also get it. Christine was sharing that they should also promote remote internships through job search portals such as Handshake that you might have at your university or another platform, and integrating representatives via Zoom to discuss with audiences of certain majors. So that would be really helpful from companies. We also have employers need to make a concerted effort for inclusion for the remote worker, like you guys were saying, with face-to-face group meetings, one-on-one time for guidance, as you're saying, Alejandro, so being included in the office meetings, making sure, you know, if there's a remote happy hour, you're in that. And connecting with them, and also having time for guidance and direction to ensure that you understand your goals and your direction during your internship. So I think that also echoes what you guys were saying. So I wanted to open it up. If you guys have any other questions for the panelists here, please feel free to share. We're happy to answer any questions you might have. And I'm not sure if people can unmute themselves or not, or you can write in the chat. So if anyone has any questions they'd like to ask or something that we didn't cover, please feel free, and our students are happy to, to answer.
I think Clara has a question. How do we click on that? Like, how does this work?
Yeah,
Cool.
there is Clara that I know.
You can unmute yourself, I think.
I think I did.
Clara. Yeah? Okay.
Can you hear me? No.
Yes.
I just want to, first of all, to thank the 3 students, because I really appreciate, and it's always nice to hear, you know, the other side of the world. I know Martina very well. She's a student of mine, so I was almost in tears, Martina, listening to you. I mean, you made me very emotional, and congrats, because all of you were really effective. And I honestly think what I do every day in my work is that I go and I speak to companies, and I believe that nowadays, to be really appealing for the working world, students should have both experiences, as you line out, as you said really well, because I believe that the competences for a virtual internship, the soft skills are just different than the in-person one. So I really appreciated the fact that you could see the differences. But it's true that company, they have to be ready to welcome students for a virtual internship. It's not something that just can happen overnight, because they need a structure in order to being able and capable of supporting students. But I honestly believe that the working world is not going to be the same as before the COVID alert, and that we all will be working from remote for parts of our days, in our weekly routine. So I think you students have gained something that is going to be very important for your future, and you're going to have qualities that other students will not be able to have. So congratulations, and thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. And we have some questions. Yeah, some questions here in the chat. Someone wanted to know, did you guys get academic credit for your internships, or were you just doing it for the experience?
Academic credit, yeah. It is part of my studies. I have to get credits through an internship. As I had to get credits, and as I also wanted to do an experience abroad, I just matched the two things, and I grabbed the opportunity to go away, not just for an Erasmus, for example, but for working actually for a company. So yes, I had to get credits for my university.
In my case, although I have to do an internship for credits, like in the last year of my college years, this internship that I did with Absolute, it was not for it was only for the experience.
Yeah, same. I honestly didn't even know you could get it for credit. Like that wasn't really something that I thought of. Almost everyone else on the trip for Absolute, they got it for credit. So I guess I kind of got duped because I didn't really ask anyone about it. But that's on me. So I would say if you're interested in doing it to get the academic credit, definitely talk to your advisor. Because they should know the ins and outs of the whole situation, because I messed up, but I still had fun, so it's okay.
Thank you, Evan. And then we had another question here. What was the most meaningful project that you were able to complete during your remote internship experience? So what was the most meaningful project that you had in your remote internship experience?
In my case, 2 weeks ago, I had the opportunity to launch like a discount campaign because of the Parents' Day, Father's Day, sorry. And actually, we got very good results. We boost our sales of one of our stores in almost 600%. So it was awesome. I felt really good, and that was like the most important thing I've done in my company.
As I said before, I work in the field of business communication. So I collaborated with the creative team to create contents for social medias, and I wouldn't mention a project in particular, because I worked on a project on a single project through all my internship experience, because we were creating a new campaign for the company. It was pretty long, and it takes only 2 months. But I would mention the fact that it was very rewarding, seeing that the company used for published through social medias what I personally created. So it was definitely a reward for me, seeing that what I was doing was appreciated from them.
Yeah, for me, just like for some context, the company that I was working with, they were an app company, and they were creating like kind of a fantasy soccer type app. And so what I was really proud of was that I was able to make it a lot more user friendly. Like I gave them, what I did was I researched other apps and their top competitors, and I was like, oh, okay, this is kind of cool to implement. We can implement all this. So I thought it was really cool because they took like a lot of my ideas and they made it a lot more user friendly. And I also helped them increase their social media presence, which was also really dope. So yeah, really proud about that.
Great, thank you. And I think we just have one last question, and we'll finish up today. This question was for Martina. Would you have done your experience if you didn't have credit for it? So would you have done the internship experience if you didn't get credit?
I would, but not now, after the studies, because the main reason is the fact that but students in general, I think, feel the pressure to finish our studies as soon as possible. So yes, I would have applied for this internship anyway, and I would like to do further experiences like that, but I would have finished my studies first because of feeling under pressure to accomplish what I have to do now.
Okay, great. Yes, and someone asked if these internships were unpaid. Yes, all of them were unpaid internship experiences. So good question. Anything
they
else?
Were worth it though.
They were
Worth it though.
Thank you, Evan. Any other questions or comments? And we'll go ahead and wrap up today. Thank you guys so much for your patience and for participating in this webinar. We've gone a little bit over, but it was really great hearing your perspectives and your thoughts on this topic.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.